Horror Fanatic here again. After reviewing the 2014 slasher musical Stage Fright last month, I learned there was another slasher of the same name, released in 1987. Originally titled Deliria, I have also seen it as Stage Fright Aquarius, and simply once, just as Aquarius. Fun note, while set in New York, it was filmed in Italy. Stage Fright Aquarius combines elements of the Italian Galileo with the standard known slasher format, and since my experience with the Italian Galileo genre is minimal, to say the least, I'm not going to be covering those elements. Stage Fright Aquarius opens with a stage death/dance scene, and while it lacks Minnie Driver's amazing pipes, I feel it uses the setup far more effectively. But whereas Stage Fright 2014 gave us a great kill right out of the gate, here we're going to have to wait a while. They go to the nearest medical facility, which just so happens to be the St. Mary's Psychiatric Ward.
I called. We can't do it. Don't worry. I know this is an emergency.
It's alright, girls. It's alright. It's alright.
So, wait. That shit just worked? In all reality, this doctor should have probably thrown those girls out. While at St. Mary's, Alicia catches the attention of Irving Wallace, an actor that's currently undergoing psychiatric care after murdering 16 people. Wallace manages to escape by breaking his bonds, killing the orderly that comes to check on him, and swapping places. Alicia and Betty return to the theater, unaware that Irving Wallace is hiding in the back seat. When they arrive, Alicia is fired by Peter, the play's director, for leaving the rehearsal.
Would you clean out your dressing room and give the key to Laurel?
While Alicia is gathering her things, Betty heads out to the car where she's killed by Irving Wallace with a pickaxe to the mouth. This makes Betty the first death in the film 20 minutes in. Alicia then heads out to the car where she finds Betty's body. Police arrive and inform the cast that the murderer is Irving Wallace, along with how he escaped. Seems like something they might want to keep quiet for a while. Peter decides to use Betty's death to his advantage by changing the play in a number of ways. Most prominently, this is by giving the formerly nameless killer the name Irving Wallace, and he also by claiming that Betty was an actress rather than just a wardrobe mistress. You know, because he's an insensitive asshole. Peter manages to convince the cast to stay and practice the new script so they can capitalize on the publicity. He does this by offering them more money and reminding them that acting is a tough profession to support yourself. He gives the key to Corinne, telling her to lock the doors and hide the key, because leaving to go home and mourn the death of a friend, or at the very least to fellow cast member, is something that Peter can't even fathom. Wallace steals the Owl Killer costume and starts stalking his victim pool. I personally found this section of the film incredibly boring and slow-paced. But eventually, Wallace finds his way on stage where he murders Corinne in front of everyone. Since Corinne is now dead and no one knows where the key is hidden, all of the remaining victims are now trapped inside the theater with Wallace. And due to the rainstorm outside, the police can't hear them when they scream for help. The group decides to stick together, a good idea, and look for the key. This is something that Ferrari, the play's producer, fails at almost instantly as he stays behind to gather up the money. He's caught on stage by Wallace, who he offers money to not kill him. This scene reminds me a lot of Friday the 13th Part 6, which was released a year prior, in which Elizabeth offers Jason money not to kill her, much with the same outcome. Those remaining in the victim pool barricade themselves in the dressing room. Peter and Danny leave to look for the master key in the office. After they leave, Laurel notices someone trying to break in, and Tommy blocks the door to keep it from opening, which doesn't turn out quite how he had planned. Peter and Danny return at the sound of screaming. They spot Wallace and chase after him. During this point, Laurel knocks Alicia off a ladder while they follow Peter, rendering Alicia unconscious. They follow Wallace to the attic, where Peter attacks him with an axe, but Wallace had planned a switcheroo, and Peter kills Brent instead. Wallace pills Sybil through the floor. They try to pull her back, with only partial success. Danny jumps down into the hole after Wallace to take his shot at sweet, sweet revenge. Unfortunately, Danny didn't know Wallace had a chainsaw. Wait, is that what he used to cut Sybil in half with? Because if so, why didn't we hear it? Also, that's a bit of a jump down, and I don't see anything around for Wallace to have stood on, so how exactly did he pull this off? Wallace then goes after Peter, who uses Laurel to defend himself, to no avail. Peter gets in a momentary reprieve where he thinks he just might make it when Wallace's chainsaw dies, only to lose his head. Alicia wakes up to find Laurel bleeding out in the shower. When she hears Wallace coming, she hides. She watches Wallace kill Laurel and drag away her body. Alicia, who's now the most decidedly the final girl, makes her way to the office where she locates some keys and a gun. None of the keys work, and she notices Wallace on stage with the posed corpses of his victims. He then acts out a strange set piece, and she notices a key wedged into the stage. Is that where Laurel hid the key? Sticking up in the center of the stage? Because that's the worst possible hiding spot. Anyway, Alicia makes her way under the stage and manages to free the key from below. The key falls to the concrete right when the music ends, allowing Wallace to hear it. Alicia flees, but Wallace catches her, and when the gun doesn't work, she stabs him in the eye. She reaches the door, but is unable to open it in time, and flees up to the rafters, where she and Wallace tangle. Alicia gains the upper hand and throws Wallace to the stage down below. But he's still not dead, so she sets him on fire. Whoa! Why is there a full-on burn barrel in the middle of a theater? That's a safety hazard. Alicia manages to finally escape and alert the officers outside. She's taken to the hospital, but Alicia decides to return later to find the watch that she lost by fighting Wallace. She talks Willie into letting her in to look, which he does, while informing her the gun works. It just had its safety on. Inside, Alicia realizes that only 8 bodies were recovered, meaning Wallace is still alive. Right then, Wallace pops up behind her, only to be shot in the head by Willie, who goes into his own little state of shock. And that's Stage Fright Aquarius from director Michelle Soavi. So, how does this film measure up as a slasher? Okay, it hits most of the important elements for a slasher. An isolated cast, being stalked by a masked and silent killer, to be defeated by a virginal chaste final girl. Now, that last element can be argued because as an adult, we can reasonably figure that Alicia has had sex. But
A whore? You're supposed to be a whore. Is that too much to ask?
I rest my case. The cast also covers most of the standard slasher victim types, and there's also more than a few notable tropes. There's police is useless, barrier busting blow, masked killer, and the asshole victim trope 3 times over, plus many more. One issue I do have with Stage Fright Aquarius is Brett's character, in that he's the only one not killed by Wallace. Wallace makes it a pretty clear point that he has no compunction in just straight up murdering a fool. So why does he abduct Brett, only to have him killed by someone else? I mean, isn't killing people his whole shtick? So why does he give Brett here the different treatment? My main issue with this film, though, is the pacing, as it's incredibly slow, even in the final act. And when the end of the film came, I had more of a sense of relief than anything else. This is mainly due to the acting, which ranges from bad to just okay, with Sybil, Ferrari, and Peter occupying one end of the scale, and Wallace and Willie occupying the other, and the remaining characters creating more or less a bell curve in the center. An aspect of this film that I really did enjoy, though, was the music, which stayed consistently the best thing about it throughout the film, and was the only thing that created any sense of tension or suspense for me. Final thoughts. While Stage Fright Aquarius is a passable slasher, it's not a great example of what the genre can offer. The focus on style does little to mask the lack of substance, and overall the story is pretty weak. There are some fun kills though, and my personal favorite being Betty with the pickaxe to the mouth. Anyway, that's all for Stage Fright Aquarius, and I will see you all next month.